Hello everybody, and welcome back to another top 5 ranking video. This time we're going to keep it simple, and we're just going to be focusing on weapons that are not very effective for Black Ops 1 Zombies. The criteria for this list is actually quite simple. The criteria are as follows. The weapons are not going to be pack-a-punch, aka we're not going to take into account the pack-a-punch variants of the weapons, because ultimately pack-a-punch has pretty much the same effect on all weapons, with some exceptions, and it's only really worth it if the weapons themselves are actually good. So if you get a really decent weapon like an RPK or a ray gun and pack-a-punch it, since it's already a decent weapon, it's obviously going to improve drastically. Whereas if you get a weapon that isn't so great to begin with, obviously it's going to not be that much of an improvement to pack-a-punch it, and it will be a waste of 5,000 points. The second rule is that this is only going to cover box weapons only. Also, we're not going to factor in the use of Coca-Colas with these weapons either when gauging how ineffective they are. That being said, let's just get straight into the video. Starting off with number 5, we have the Spectre SMG. Now, this weapon is actually not that bad for survival on early rounds, but it tends to blow away ammo fairly quickly and is only really useful for a point weapon. Now, as a weapon in general, it can help you avoid getting killed in certain situations, but because it's an SMG, meaning it does very little damage but has a high volume of fire, it's more likely to get you killed on later rounds, such as past round 10, so it's not really great. However, it's more useful as a point weapon, which is why it's so high on the list. For number 4, we're going with the Python Revolver. Now, this weapon is in many ways the opposite of the Spectre, being a 6-shot revolver with a higher damage output, but it has a similar problem, albeit for the opposite reason. Despite its damage output, it has a slower fire rate as well as a slower reload, which makes a smaller magazine size an even greater danger to use. And while the damage drop-off in later rounds is not that big, it's still not that great of a weapon. Number 3, the L96A1. Speaking of power, this next gun actually has a good bit of it and can even penetrate multiple bodies per shot, which can allow up to 3 or 4 kills per shot on earlier rounds. There is one downside though to it, and that is because it is a sniper rifle, the scope makes it impossible to use at close range, not even mentioning the fact that the damage falls off after around 10 or 12. It also only has a 5-round magazine and is bolt action, which makes it just harder in general to use effectively while you're attempting to train on the stage in Kino, for instance. Number 2, the Ballistic Knife. Now, this weapon actually does have one good use, which is that it can be used for a point weapon up to round 6, and it could potentially kill an enemy with a headshot, given its ranged ability. That being said, that's really its only asset. Not only is it a crapshoot whether you get this weapon, especially on an early round, given you don't know where the mystery box is until you turn on the power, but even then, it really sucks, especially since it only really is capable of being used up close and personal aside from shooting zombies in the head. And in both cases, the damage fall off is very noticeable after the first dog round, so it's really not all that worth it. There's not much that can be utilized regarding this weapon. And coming in at number 1, we have the China Lake. This weapon honestly has way too many things working against it for it to be a decent pick. For starters, it's quite hefty and it isn't easy at all to aim shots with. It also has a very slow fire rate given the pump between each round is slow, and it only holds 2 grenades per reload. Its reload speed is also not very fast, so do the math there. Also, its splash damage seems to be selective at times, and because of the accuracy of the weapon as aforementioned, when compared with something like the Law, which can be aimed, it's almost impossible to pick where to shoot and to make any decent use of it in any aspect. So for that, the China Lake is being put at the very top of this list, where it belongs. Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked the video and made it to the end, why not give it a like as well as share the video with a friend you think might be interested in this topic. Also, be sure to follow me on all relevant social media, as well as my Twitch and Rumble account for exclusive content and streams on special events. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.